increasingly polarizing world, sports allow people from all backgrounds and with different ideologies to join together in supporting the same team or player without question. Nothing else can claim to do this with such frequency and passion as sports. The Locker Room focuses on local sports and highlights the achievements made by our prep and collegiate sports from around the Spokane area. Justin Reed, former sports editor at the Gonzaga Bulletin and current sports reporter at the Spokesman Review, grew up in Spokane where he attended Meade High School and later went on to graduate from Gonzaga University in 2017 with a degree in journalism. Now, here's your host, Justin Reed.
Welcome back to The Locker Room. I am your host, Justin Reed, and today I am with Rick Welliver, former pro boxer and current owner and head coach of Spokane Boxing Gym. Really interesting guest today. We're going to talk about some fun topics, ranging from boxing to youth to some specific city aspects when it comes to youth sports. But to kind of start off, we'll get a little bit of a background. Kind of tell me, you born and raised in Spokane. Welliver is a boxing name, but...
Yeah, born in Spokane, moved away as a boy, lived in Montana for part of my youth, and then came back and, went through high school, went Rogers High School, started boxing at a young age, went back to it later on in life, and loved my town.
What about boxing in general was such a draw to you specifically?
For me, it was just a chance to hang out with my dad. My dad was super invested in boxing, and as a young boy, took me to the gym a lot. And it was just something that was always on TV growing up, and it's just super invested in me and him, and it was one of many things that me and him sort of did together, and like any young boy, I wanted to be like my father, and my father was a boxer, so, you know.
In general, what is good about boxing? If someone asked you why box, what's the importance of it in general? What's boxing good at doing for people?
Well, I think, athletics in general, everyone wants to talk about how athletic builds character, but boxing not only builds character, it reveals character. And I think if you can do something that's as physically demanding, mentally demanding as boxing and get enjoyment out of it, you can do just about anything. It's not every day that you get punched in the face and come back to the gym the next day and do it, but it basically appeals to every sort of primal thing that we have going. But that being said, it's a spiritual sport.
So you started Spokane Boxing in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
You're in your second location. Very cool place. Very classic style boxing gym. When you moved, who are some of the big people who kind of helped that whole process along?
Well, mostly Mark Peterson from KXLY.
The Extreme Team?
Yeah, the Extreme Team. Mark Peterson. Mike Gonzalez, who was the anchor at Channel 4, put me in touch with Mark and kind of facilitated the whole thing. I needed a place to move to. I had some horrible landlords and needed a place to move to and needed to move it quick or I was going to be out on the streets. And Mike Gonzalez put me in touch with the Extreme Team, Mark Peterson, and it was with Mark, it was just kind of like, yeah, sure, let's go. The guy's a bulldozer. He just when he went into motion, it was just like he just ran over the top of everything and made it happen. He saved us.
Where are you located right now?
115 South Jefferson,
okay,
right,
so
kind of in the heart of downtown, not far from here, but in the old Jefferson building.
Okay.
Kitty corner to KHQ, that area, and I love the west end of town. Everything down here seems to be happening a little quicker than everywhere else, so.
So yeah, that's nice that you're able to find a space that you were growing. You had a lot of ideas and things you wanted to do, and it's nice that you have a place to be able to do that. And we'll jump into more what you're doing specifically there a little bit later, because there's some really cool things that are happening. But let's kind of focus on Wallace, Idaho, the Silver Valley for a moment. Some people may know you and know of what has happened over there. But let's kind of talk about that a little bit more. So. Very popular, famous, well-known boxing area. And
yeah,
I think a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
What's some of the history over there in Wallace in the Silver Valley when it comes to boxing?
Well, there's tons of history. I mean, the fighters themselves, Herb Carlson, the Walker brothers, Furpo Bardelli's he's the man. He's on top of that pedestal, Hall of Fame light heavyweight. But for me as a kid, it was just going there. It was going to the town and competing. Going to Wallace, going to Kellogg, but mostly to Wallace. was always kind of the funnest trip for all of us kids back in the late 70s, early 80s, mid 80s, and it was one of the few places that our coaches wanted to spend the night. Well, not knowing at the time what the history was all about, we kind of we kind of realized our coaches were having as much fun as we were, but just in a very different way. And so years ago, it kind of came up that what are the chances of bringing boxing back to the Silver Valley, to Wallace, Idaho? And we, I have a good friend of mine, Sam Magnuson, kind of facilitated the whole, let's have a meeting and get together and go from there. Yeah.
What was the reason? Why did you think it was important to get boxing in that area? Was there anything that kind of struck you as an important reason to get boxing in that area?
I think just to revive it for nostalgia. But that being said, every area has a group of kids that don't quite fit into the norm. That doesn't quite fit into the norm, that maybe doesn't want to do team sports. And sports is growing into this sort of thing where it costs money, and it's all about leagues: hockey, soccer, volleyball, basketball, football. Well, boxing is one of the few sports that you can do individually, and it kind of kids maybe that feel a little isolated, a little different, low income, kind of on the fringes, sort of gravitate towards boxing, and any area would benefit from it. For me, it was just, I love the Silver Valley. I love Wallace, Idaho, and to be able to bring some boxing events and the sport itself as an option back to that town was really what it was all about. I had a lot of help doing it.
So what was kind of the first step? I've read some of the backstory on how it came to be. How did you go about getting that to happen? Like, I don't know what it's like to be able to start a sport in a town, to
restart a sport. And the reality of it is, like I said, I got a lot of help.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just a matter of sitting down with a bunch of the movers and shakers of Wallace, Idaho, and saying, hey, we want to do an event. And the first few events went off splendidly. And then it sort of became a economic driver where the motels were selling and people were making money in the bars and the restaurants. In the shoulder seasons, April and October or November, when we have the events, the town was packed. And so we moved it to Kellogg, did some events in Kellogg, and those went well. And it just kind of picked up steam. And we're 5 years into this now, 5 years into it. And Kathy Shepard, my friend Sam's cousin, she helped facilitate all of it, introduced me to everybody, and we got a team of people going up there, and it's just kind of steamrolled. It's as a city, I mean, the town knows how to collaborate and get things done. Spokane could learn a lot from the people of Wallace.
So yeah, it sounds like it's going well. It sounds like everything's rolling.
Yeah,
Is it kind of?
We're 15 events into it.
Okay, because so you have a few a year and
5 years.
Years. So, is it kind of? Not that you don't, not that you're hands off, but is it able to kind of run itself now? Like, do you not have to? You still have a lot that goes into it.
There's still a lot that goes into it. I mean, you have to make sure that all these teams show up. They get invited. They show up. Teams from, we've had teams from Utah, Oregon, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, Washington. Obviously, teams come down from Canada, so you have to make sure they've got all the information needs to travel. Officials, USA Boxing officials, coordinate with them, getting the matches made, getting people there, and then hoping that a crowd shows up to kind of cover the overhead and get a little money to put back into the boxing program. So, I mean, anything can change at any time. You could get weathered out. A lot of these teams travel over 2 or 3 passes to get there. And so it couldn't run itself, but we do have a system now that works pretty good.
So it's kind of where you'd like to see it? Like, is it successful and you're happy with how it's going?
Absolutely.
Good.
It's one of those things where people want to come to it, and so sort of the end result of that is that it's happening and it's going to be a tradition over there from here on out, and I want to bring it to Spokane.
So is there places for kids to box over there now? Is it
starting there's a Silver Valley Boxing Club.
Okay.
And there's a Silver Valley Boxing Club that I'm the coach of. I'm handing that over to Coach Jim Bollet and Coach Corey Bollet over there. Coached Corey. He's transitioning into being a fighter coach, and then Coach Jim is doing a fantastic job as a coach over there, so he's ready to take the whole thing over. I'm going to step aside.
Well, that's cool. It's nice to kind of let it start being.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. We're going to collaborate well. It's still going to be a team sport, so to
Yeah.
speak. Like, they're going to collaborate with us over here in Spokane Boxing.
Okay.
But Coach Jim's doing a real good job over there.
What are some of the goals? Do you have anything in mind that you'd really like to see from that area going forward, or is it just more natural
Just to
growth?
cultivate it, keep
Yep.
it happening. It's one of those things where the boxing clubs, people, spectators, they want to go to Wallace, Idaho. They want to go to Kellogg. We've had events up top Silver Mountain,
cool.
6,000 feet up in the air.
That's fun.
Drag a ring all the way up there and set it up. And people just want to go to that area and box because it just sort of feels right. And a lot of the coaches that are coaching now were guys that I competed with and or against in the late 80s and early 90s. And they want to bring their teams there because of the nostalgia and the history and just the whole area sort of cultivates this Wild West, which boxing fits right into. And it's become an economic driver, so to speak.
So let's kind of tie into, after the break we'll talk about Spokane specifically, but let's kind of tie into that with one of the stories I was reading about Wallace is one of the problems with the youth there. It's not a very easy place for them to find things to do. Some of them fall into kind of some of the things you were mentioning earlier. One of the stories I was reading was, there's alcohol and there's drug use, and it's more accessible because there's not a ton to do there. So how important is it to have an outlet like boxing for some of these kids, specifically in Wallace and the Silver Valley area? How nice is it to give them a place to feel like they can grow and do something else other than those things?
Well, it feels great. You show up to practice, and you got, every spring when the weather breaks. Burke is a little community outside of Wallace. I get about 4 or 5 bikes sitting outside of the gym when I pull up to practice. These kids ride their bikes down. Poverty in Spokane is one thing. Poverty in remote Idaho is another. And it's a little different set of problems up there. I'm not saying worse or anything like
Just
worse.
different.
I will say worse because there's less options. You don't have a Snap on every corner. You don't have an emergency room just down the block. The resources just aren't there. So we're getting a lot of low-income kids that are part of this program that, it's different.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be living in an apartment, have 8 people stuffed into an apartment. It's another thing to have 8 people stuffed into a trailer motorhome,
Just in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, in the middle of the woods. And that's me and Coach Jim Bollet have driven kids home that are living as simple of an existence as there is. So it gives them something to look forward to going to being a part of.
Well, that's good. It sounds like it's a good outlet for sure. And we'll talk more after the break here about Spokane directly, since that's where you started from, and that's where you have a little bit more hands-on and an ability to have some more influence on.
Sure.
But we'll take a quick break, and we'll see you back here right after the break.
Hi, I'm Larry Myers, owner of River Ridge Hardware. Welcome to our garden center here on the corner of Garland and Driscoll. We have fresh plants that come in weekly from all of our local growers. We can make your garden look like our garden. Here at River Ridge, we've been here 30 years. We're your full-service neighborhood hardware store. This is our sprinkler aisle, where my knowledgeable staff will help you put together your sprinkler system so it will make your yard lush green for the spring and summer. This is River Ridge Hardware's rental center, where we provide a multitude of equipment for rent for the do-it-yourselfer. Next time you're working on your home or yard this spring and summer, stop by, say hi, and we'll help you get the project done.
Hi folks, Sammy Eubanks here, inviting you to join us for our Blue Christmas show with our very special guests, the Zach Cooper Band. December 22nd, 8 p.m. at the Knitting Factory Concert House in downtown Spokane. Tickets are available from all the band members all over town. You can go to SammyEubanksLive.com for more information. Merry Christmas.
All right, welcome back to the locker room. I'm here again with Rick Welliver, former pro boxer and owner and head coach of Spokane Boxing. We talked about a little bit about Wallace, some of the things you're doing there.
Silver Valley.
Silver Valley specifically, Kellogg, the whole valley there. Let's kind of narrow it down to Spokane. And one of the things that I saw in one of the stories that was done, one of the things that really stuck out to me specifically was the whole idea of radical hospitality.
Yeah.
Talk to me more about what that means to you and what it's like having kids who need that sort of, the radical hospitality.
Well, it's a term I got from Ron Molina, who's one of the head guys at the university, Union Gospel Mission. And me and Ron have worked together. He's a minister, but radical hospitality it's just never ending. If you're going to be hospitable and be giving, you have to do it all the time. You can't do this while I'm cutting you off, especially when you're dealing with young adults and kids. It's got to be never ending. Are there consequences if you can't get it done? Will I take things away from you if you don't get it done? Absolutely. But you always can come back and start over. And we've had some success stories that, where 3 or 4 times down the road, maybe a kid or a young adult's going to get it right and conquer whatever it is that they're having a hard time overcoming. And so what if I'd have given up on that kid after the first time they relapsed or the first time they were thrown in jail? I can't do that. You just can't. That's radical. It's got to be never ending.
So and I guess I should have started off, what exactly with your gym, what is your purpose when it comes to youth? What are you trying to do with them?
More than anything, just give them a sense of direction, or give them a reason to wake up. I went through a portion of my life, my youth, where the only thing I looked forward to every day was going to the boxing gym and being a part of that atmosphere. Spokane doesn't cultivate that. It doesn't give a kid a reason to want to do anything. You want to play hockey, you want to play soccer, you want to play volleyball, you want to play basketball, you better have a family with money. You don't need that in Spokane. You don't need that in boxing. You need that in Spokane. You don't need that in boxing. You can just come and be a part of it. We'll find sponsors. We'll find whatever it takes. As a society, we have forgotten how to make kids feel special, and we've also forgotten how to give them options. Boxing is an option that can empower a kid, make him feel better about himself.
So one thing, this is the second time that we've met. The first time, you got a phone call from a kid who pretty much said, I want to come back. I want to come back to the gym.
Oh, that's right. When me and you met the first time, yeah.
And you said, are you clean? Are you sober? And can you prove it to me? And he said he had 1 month. He said he had a 1 month chip, and you said, you bring that, you show me, you're back in. What is it like dealing with these kids? And you mentioned one person who's been sober since, they were dealing with stuff when they were young. I mean, really young. What is it like dealing with some of these kids who all they know is not being sober?
Well, it's you just do it. I mean, like I said, you can't draw a line in the sand and say that I'm cutting you off. There'll be consequences and stuff. But that being said, we all got our vices. We all got our addictions. I'm a guy that is I think everybody deserves second, third, fourth, fifth chances. I just do. And you're dealing with, there are success stories. I take recovery coins from kids and young adults. If you're going to a meeting, whether it's for Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous, if you can't afford to pay to come to my gym, you can pay me by going to a meeting, showing me that you went to a meeting. I've got 1 day coins, I've got 1 month coins, I've got 3 month coins, 6 month, 9, 12. 12 month, 1 year coins. I got a coin the other day, 29 years. Now I haven't been doing this 29 years in this person, but this person comes to my gym and mentors and helps out and talks to the kids and is also a fighter themselves. And it just means everything, it's my way of contributing. Mm-hmm. It's the only way I know how to contribute to addiction and or to helping somebody out is through boxing. So
you're not. There's kind of going back to that hospitality aspect. There's definitely a way that you have when it comes to mentoring these young kids, young adults. Mm-hmm. what is it like when they first come in, their first session? What are you trying to preach to them? What are you trying to tell them when it comes to their life or do you just talk boxing when they
No.
what
What
goes through that
boxing
process?
boxing's usually the third or fourth thing that we'll get into. I want to know why they're in there. I want to know why they want to learn how to box. I want to know what sort of what their end game is. Boxing is secondary. I mean, there's so many different metaphors in a boxing gym, so many things that you can translate over to life. And being inside of that environment, I've got city administrators, I've got attorneys, I've got doctors, I've got medical students, law students, government workers, I've got addiction counselors, teachers, everybody, all walks of life. And we all work out together as a group, and it's very inclusive. Inclusion matters. With what's happening in our world lately, there's people feel the need to say, well, only these kind of people. But boxing's a sport where everyone's included. Black, white, gay, straight, girl, guy, that whole bit. Everyone's included. And so you're a part of this, and we're going to go from there.
So kind of going on a more broad spectrum here, you mentioned about club sports. You mentioned...
and I'm not saying I'm not a fan of club sports. I am a fan of all sports.
Yep.
But this is a sport that, you're not going to need to have an upgrade every 6 months to, hey, we're doing a skills camp and it's going to cost you this.
And down in California.
I'm here.
Yeah.
We'll find sponsors. We've got a lot of help from a lot of community people that have helped us out, get these kids competing.
So what needs to change in Spokane when it comes to youth sports? What are some things you think that needs to be changed at a Spokane level?
I think... I hope that, we need to change our whole focus as a town. I've always, I like to read these. I read the paper every day. I still like getting ink on my fingertips, and we need to change what the whole focus is. We don't need a nice new shiny park or a rebuilt rid path to make Spokane better. What we need to make Spokane better is to get these youth off the streets having more options. We need mental health facilities. We need a place where the homeless can go. We need to take care of the people in the town, not give them a nice place to sleep, We need to take care of the homeless and the mentally ill in this town and facilitate more options. We're not doing that. I love my town, and I do like the direction we're going in as a town, but we have a city that gave how many millions of dollars to one of the richest taxpayers in Spokane County to finish the rid path. We're going to spend how much money dumping rocks on homeless people to displace them? We're going to put how much money into Catholic charities? That's where our money's going, really? But you can't invest that into the youth.
Better foundation.
Better foundation. Yeah. You can't invest that into the mentally ill. That's where our money's going to go, really? So that's, I think it's changing the whole perspective. I'm a guy that feels that you have to invest in the person, not in the place. Invest in the people here in this town, the kids, and then everything beyond that's going to work out. Yep. That's just me. But I mean, I'm not real popular in the way that I think, with some people. But it's a total loss of thinking about what it's just forgetting about what matters. And humans matter more than buildings. Humans matter more than parks. And we're not investing enough in our youth, our mentally ill, and our homeless populations in this town. And it's frustrating.
And it peaks, and things like City Hall. That's where it ends up.
Yeah, that's where it ends up. And really, all of these big minds couldn't figure this out. This was going to happen.
Yeah, it's definitely it's nice to see that someone is starting with youth and trying to do something that no one really knows.
And I'm a small portion of what's going to happen. But I've had kids that are homeless sleeping in my gym, sleeping in my ring, sleeping on the mezzanine at my gym, sleeping in the equipment closet because they have nowhere to sleep, and that's not a problem with me. But let's dump a bunch of money into the rid path and save that. Yeah, let's, I'm struggling with that. I struggle with those kind of things. Hey, let's dump a bunch of money on dropping rocks. boy, there's a solution. So
So let's look at Spokane Boxing, and hopefully this video and this show. Hopefully it reaches some organizations. Hopefully someone are able to see it. If they want to get involved, if they either they want to box or they want to help foster this sort of environment, how can people get a hold of you? How can people get
Call
involved?
me. Call me. SpokaneBoxing.com is my webpage. Spokane Boxing Gym on Facebook. Spokane Boxing Gym on Twitter. Or not Twitter. Twitter, I don't really access Twitter, but I think that's what it is. Spokane Boxing on the phone. Instagram.
There you go.
I'm learning all about this.
You're doing okay so
Just
far.
get a hold of me and bring me your kids. I mean, we had a guy come in last night. My kid's violent and he's attacking, and just call, bring him in. Boxing centers a kid. It makes a kid like inclusion. It makes a kid feel included. We need help, and I've gotten help from a lot of people. Mac and a little construction, Bill Maxey, Bill Etter, Nick Murdo. I mean, a lot of great companies have helped us out. I mean, just Mac and a little. I'll forget, but
So a lot of people for sure.
a lot of people have helped out. Mark Peterson, nobody's bigger than Mark Peterson in the Extreme Team, but we need more help. And we need more help cultivating the idea that these inner city kids got a place to go and a place to feel included.
Yeah.
We need help from the city. That's what we need.
So yeah, real quick to kind of end this, Spokane Police Department. You're doing some stuff with them. Real quick, kind of talk to me about what you're doing with them.
Got a call. Got a text message from Officer Jindaru. She's fantastic. I've kind of been talking with her off and on for about 4 or 5 years. Starting a police athletic league where cops and kids can get together and collaborate and find out, these kids can find out that our police are not. They said, hey, we want to talk about doing a PAL, Police Athletic League arm boxing program through your program. Chief Craig Meidel is so fantastic and so invested in what I'm doing. He's just great. And I think he finally gets it, and so we're putting something together to start a police athletic league boxing program to get more inner city kids, more low income kids, more everybody involved, and then have the police department help us out.
Perfect. So yeah,
I'm a fan. I'm a total fan of Chief Meidel, and I'm a total fan of our police department, and it took the police department to reach out to get the city sort of looking in our direction.
Good first step.
Absolutely. Yeah. So.
Well, perfect. Yeah, I know, and there's plenty more exciting things that are happening down there that I'm sure, hopefully, we'll get some coverage moving forward.
Oh yeah, There's going to be some really big stuff coming up.
And so we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that. And kind of like we said, just kind of Facebook, all social media, the internet, just get involved. If you have, there's all kinds of avenues to access what's going on, and it'll be fun to kind of see what comes up and what you're able to do.
Oh, we're gonna do big things. It's one of those things where we got Bloomsday's how many years into it, Hoop Fest is how many. I'm gonna start putting on a local event here in town that's gonna be big, probably the Inland Empire Classic or something like that. I don't know what I'm gonna coin it, but it's gonna be big for our town. It's gonna be an annual thing. It's gonna shine a light on Spokane, and I'm gonna do this with the Spokane Police Department. Hopefully, the help of Spokane, the City Council, and make Spokane a destination for young fighters that want to box.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking a few minutes here.
Thanks a lot, man.
Oh yeah, of course. It was fantastic hearing about some of the things you're doing.
Is this kind of a shameless plug?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there, and you can take. We have plenty of them, so take all of them you need.
Few.
There you go. Yeah, really.
I've already put a few in my
that's
jacket.
That's what the big sweatshirt's for.
So.
Well, I appreciate it, and that was another episode of The Locker Room. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter. We don't have Instagram, but thanks for allowing Rick to tell his story, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you.